Hey everybody, this is James,
Marco,
Nabil,
and Mikey.
And this is the Movie Pals Podcast, podcast number 191. Today we are voyaging back into Star Trek with a review of Star Trek Generations, followed by a review of the new horror film, Wolfman. Without further ado, let's get into it. So if this is your first time listening to us, we have been going through all the Star Trek motion picture films. We are finally at, theoretically, Star Trek 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd say that.
So we went all the way from the original crew, and now we are transitioning into the next generation crew. So we've made it this far. I want to say we still have 6 more after this with the Kelvin timeline. That's why. So
wait, are we watching the new one too?
I don't know yet. That's not even out yet. So let's see.
Because we are the Star Trek podcast.
Not really. Just saying. I wasn't really that at all. Somebody might take that a little too personal.
I know.
What do you
know everything?
Oh, really? Well, I'm wearing my suit right now.
The spandex one.
Speak Klingon, Nabil. So what we like to do before each review is we do some behind-the-scenes facts. So this time around, it's just interesting behind-the-scenes facts of Star Trek Generations. So passing the torch. Generations was designed as a transitional film passing the cinematic torch from the Star Trek The Original Series cast to the Next Generation cast. This marked the first time featuring Captain Picard and his crew after Star Trek The Next Generation ended its TV run in May of 1994.
Kirk's death. Captain Kirk's death went through significant revisions. Originally, he was to be shot in the back by Dr. Soren, but test audiences found this ending unsatisfactory. It was reshot to give Kirk a more heroic demise, involving him helping Picard to stop Soren.
Filming the Nexus Ribbon. The visual stunning Nexus Ribbon was created using a combination of practical effects and CGI. It was a challenging concept to execute visually, as it needed to appear otherworldly while interacting with physical environments.
Enterprise D destruction. The destruction of Enterprise D was a major plot point. The decision was made to destroy the ship because the design was created for TV and considered unsuitable for cinematic action sequences. The film also marked the final appearance of Enterprise D in its original form.
Interesting to know. Malcolm McDowell's role. Malcolm McDowell, who played the villainous Dr. Tolan Soren, was the brother-in-law of William Shatner at the time of filming. McDowell received mixed reactions from fans for killing Captain Kirk, though his performance was widely praised.
Generations budget. With a budget of $35 million, the film was relatively modest compared to blockbuster standards of the time. To save costs, many sets and props were reused from the Next Generation TV series with enhancements for cinematic quality.
Sounds like a typical thing they did on every one of these movies.
Yeah.
Guinan's backstory expansion. The character of Guinan, who was played by Whoopi Goldberg, received a subtle backstory expansion in the film. Her connection to the Nexus revealed more about her enigmatic history, adding depth to her role as an El Orion.
Shooting on location. The Amargosa observatory scenes were filmed at the Valley of Fire State Park in Nevada, chosen for its alien-like landscapes. This was a departure from primarily soundstage-based filming of the TV series.
That's the scene I always remember of this movie, is like when they're in the desert, by the way.
Yeah.
It just feels different.
That's the scene that always stands out to me. Like when I think of this movie, that's the first thing I thought of was the stupid bridge scene when they're fighting on the stupid bridge thing. Patrick Stewart's personal input. Patrick Stewart worked closely with writers to make Picard's grief over his family's death more authentic. His nuanced performance added emotional weight to the film story.
Deleted subplots. Several subplots were cut, including a storyline involving Geordi LaForge's torture by Soren. The original scenes, considered too graphic, were trimmed to keep the film PG.
The time travel dilemma. The film's time travel mechanics involving the Nexus sparked debates among fans. The Nexus was deliberately left somewhat ambiguous, as the writers intended for it to evoke a dreamlike quality rather than a strict scientific logic.
Composer Dennis McCarthy. Dennis McCarthy, a longtime Star Trek TV composer, scored the film. With his score praised for its grandeur, some fans missed Jerry Goldsmith's iconic Star Trek themes, which were not used in this installment.
Shatner's input. William Shatner reportedly pushed for a more heroic portrayal of Kirk's final moments. I'm not shocked, right? Emphasizing that Kirk should die, quote-unquote, making a difference. His feedback influenced the final script.
Data's emotion chip. Data's emotion chip subplot provided comic relief and character development. Brent Spiner's performance balanced humor and pathos, showcasing Data's struggle to integrate emotions.
Lighting and cinematography. The film's darker, moodier lighting was a departure from the series. Cinematographer John A. Alonzo aimed to give the film a more cinematic feel while maintaining the essence of Star Trek.
All right, with that being said, let's get into our review of Star Trek Generations.
I must return to the observatory immediately.
There's nothing I can do.
Timing is very important in my experiment.
What the hell's he doing?
I have an appointment with eternity, and I don't want to be late.
Soren doesn't care about weapons or power. He just cares about getting back to the Nexus.
The star is going to collapse in a matter of minutes.
That'll destroy everything in this system.
Population.
230 million, sir.
Star Trek Generations, sitting at a wonderful 47% on Rotten Tomatoes. The story for this movie is, in the 23rd century, the Starship Enterprise is dispatched to the scene of a giant energy field about to engulf two ships. Captain Kirk averts calamity but is exposed to the field and presumed dead. Years later, the Enterprise's new commander, Captain Picard, learns that one of the disaster survivors, Dr. Soren, plans to enter the field by destroying a neighboring star. Picard now must collaborate with an unlikely ally in order to stop him. This one is directed by David Carson, who also did Letters from a Killer in 1998 and Unstoppable in 2004. Written by Ronald D. Moore and Brandon Braga, who did Star Trek First Contact in 1996 and Mission Impossible 2, in 2000.
Yeah, I was like, remember the left jacket pocket. Please.
Yeah. Oh, man. Released on November 18th, 1994 in theaters with a budget of $35 million and a box office of $118 million, making it quite a bit of a success. The movie stars Patrick Stewart as Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Jonathan Frakes as Commander William Riker, LeVar Burton as Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Geordi LaForge, but you don't have to take his word for it. Brent Spiner as Lieutenant Commander Data, Gates McFadden as Chief Medical Officer Commander Beverly Crusher, Michael Dorn as Lieutenant Commander Worf, Marina Sirtis as Commander Deanna Troi, Barbara March as Lursa, Gwyneth Walsh as Beator Duras, Patty Yasutaki as Lieutenant Alyssa Ogawa, Whoopi Goldberg as Guinan, Malcolm McDowell as Tolian Soren, William Shatner returning as James T. Kirk, James Doohan returning as Scotty, and Walter Koenig returning as Pavel Chekhov. So again, like we've done with the previous installments of the Star Trek movies, we're going to go over our history with the movie, and we'll start today with a pod favorite, Mr. Nabil. What's your history with Star Trek Generations?
I've seen this film quite a few times. I saw it initially, if I can remember, on TV, though. It was airing on probably, we've talked about this a few times, it was probably like on TNT or TBS at the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I really remember the interactions between the old guard and the new guard. That's what was always standing out to me. And James got to mention earlier the scene in the desert specifically where they're at and fighting on the bridge.
For some reason.
That's
right?
that always is the image in my mind when I'm thinking about this film. But yeah, I've seen this quite a few times but never made it. Never saw it in anything bigger than small little tube TV back in the day.
Nabil is confused, like, but wait a minute, how can they be together at once?
That's right.
Hold on, it's like, why hasn't he aged?
Is this the first crossover movie I've ever seen in my life?
It's a multiverse.
Back from 94? Wow.
Mikey, what about you? What's your history with Star Trek Generations?
So I don't think I've ever seen this one.
All right, cool. James, what about you? Sorry.
Yeah, Mikey said he hadn't seen it the other day. Did you confirm that, Mikey, or not?
So the desert part looks familiar to me. So maybe I've seen parts of this movie. I have never seen the first half of this movie. So.
Mikey has seen a version of this movie, but not this movie, if you know what I mean. Wink.
Is it because nothing happens at the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I assume I had because my dad loves Kirk, right? So he wasn't really into Picard. So I know every movie that Kirk was in, he would have watched. So I probably have seen it, or maybe remnants of it. But yeah, the first half of the movie, I did not even remember happened. So I don't think I've seen the movie as a whole before sitting down and watching the whole thing.
There's been a few of them that were there in like a desert, though, right?
It's possible.
I almost like the Yosemite scene from the other one.
Yeah.
Where they're in like they don't do a lot of outdoor scenes, but like this is one of the few where there's like a prominent outdoor scene.
they're usually like camping or on leave when they're doing outdoor stuff, and it's like
They're usually short too. Like normally when they're outside, it's like, hey, there's a 10-minute thing here, but this was like
then
actually
they get transported back
half, right?
Enterprise.
Yeah.
We're gonna go back. Okay.
Mr. BDJ himself. What about you, man? What's your history with Star Trek Generations?
I actually saw this one in theaters when I was 5 years old. No, I'm just kidding. No. I saw this like right before, probably around community college time, senior year of high school. I don't remember when I was knocking them out, but that's probably the last time I saw it. I do remember though, Nabil, these were being on TNT quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like they always would have marathons, and this. Remember how like they wouldn't put all of them on, but this was the one that they always included.
This one was always a part of the loop, and especially when they were doing the older films, more so than the newer ones, they added this as a part of that.
So, like you said, it's like a handoff. So they're like, and now we're going to go to these sets of films for the next couple hours, you know. But yeah, no, that's my history with it. I've never seen it in HD or 4K, obviously, until now. So this is the first time watch, and honestly, Mikey, I didn't remember that. I only remember that desert scene, man. I really didn't remember the plot of this like at all. All the other ones, remember, like I always kind of somewhat remembered them a bit, but this one was the one where I was like, I honestly, I don't remember what like this guy's plot is, what he's doing, you know, etc. So
yeah, I mean, I might have seen it and just like purged it from my brain, kind of thing.
Mikey's like, I went into a coma.
Space.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Fuck. Okay, I'm the odd duck out here. Then I
have a T-shirt on underneath. Hold on,
I do actually. No, I used to have the poster to this movie actually.
The one with Picard and Shatner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's kind of a cool poster. I won't lie.
Because
a little creepy on it.
My cousin worked at a theater; he was assistant manager, and I know I've said that a billion times. That's how I see a lot of movies. How I've seen a lot of movies as a kid is I would see them for free. Like I've seen thousands of dollars worth of movies for free. This was one of them, and I saw it in theaters actually when it premiered with my brother and my dad. My dad would love to go see these movies with me and my brother, so I have a very fond memory of this movie, and I'm a huge fan of The Next Generation and The Next Generation cast. Grew up watching that show, would be doing my homework, be 5 o'clock, it's on, I'm watching it. When my brother and I found out that a movie was coming out with the new cast and they're gonna work with the somewhat of the old cast, we were super fucking juiced. I was excited to see this fucking movie and see this crew on the big screen. I remember this plot verbatim. I've seen this movie so many times. We saw it twice in theaters. We owned the VHS. We worked at VHS to death. Like we were huge fans of Star Trek, and we would marathon all of them, even if they were on TNT or CBS, wherever they were on. They do this day where they do 3 movies a day, like one trilogy, 1 through 3, then 4 through 6, and then they'd have this one by itself on the 3rd day. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Or sometimes they'd split them up differently, but
so you're right. There was a marathon that they
would. TNT would do the same thing with Star Wars too.
They're probably doing it during the holiday weekend, if I remember now that I'm thinking about it. I think it was during like a Labor Day or something like that.
Yep. Yeah. Any holiday, spring break, summer break, winter break. That's when they do those.
We do a lot. Like I remember Back to the Future. They do a lot as well.
Yeah.
All 3. Like here you go.
I remember so many scenes about this movie. So yeah, again, I'm the odd duck out here because I mean, shit. I grew up watching these movies. So
I would have put this on for a kid to fall asleep to, maybe.
I don't know, dude. I just it's weird. I'll talk more on it on my viewing now versus then. But let's go into our thoughts on the movie before we say more. We'll go and start with you since we're on you, James. What were your thoughts of this movie and the plot?
Not a fan, guys. Gotta say, not a fan.
I could tell by the text.
I thought this was maybe the worst one we've seen so far, in my opinion, compared to the previous movies. I thought the pacing was insanely slow. Outside of a somewhat like decent opening, we get into a 45 to 50 minute like nothing burger,
especially after part 6.
Yeah, exactly. Which I really liked. So not 6. I like it like 5. I think 6 was okay, but this one was just one of those things where it was just like okay, and I get it. And I thought the whole Picard and Kirk dynamic should have been like visited way sooner in the movie and then built off of that. But we don't get anything until the last 20 minutes of the film, and by then I was like, I didn't even care anymore, quite honestly. And it feels like it really like rushes to wrap itself up by the end of the film. And I don't know. We'll jump more into it. I don't think it even looks good. I still think it looks like a TV show. The acting is okay, but stuff like that.
What about you, Nabil? What were your thoughts of Star Trek Generations?
Well, to James's point, everything about at least the opening part of this movie was basically Star Trek: The New Generation or Next Generation. It was a TV show. That's how it felt when they were in the holodeck or whatever, and they were going through the ship. That's like watching an episode of the Star Trek show. Yeah. And that's how I felt about it through the beginning. Because honestly, when we started, it's been probably like 15 years or so since I've seen this film, so I couldn't remember a lot of the plot points. And as we were going through it, I was like, I thought this was just an episode of Star Trek. Like, I was remembering it as an episode that I had seen before. And as we kept going on, I was like, oh yeah, I guess this is all the movie.
This isn't like a $35 million film.
Yeah. Because a lot of the stuff that they actually have kind of address a little bit in the show as well. And so, because they're trying to reintroduce the characters to a broader audience, obviously. But yeah, to that point, I think I liked it more than I liked it more than James did for sure. But I think the movie itself, maybe it's hindsight because of a lot of other films that have had, the multiverse and all this stuff connection. But yeah, there's definitely way too late to interact with Kirk, especially what they do in the beginning and where they get to. And there's a lot of loopholes that I didn't really get when I was first watching this, I think, or even the last time I watched it, that I'm like, but this, like, how is it that he just jumped into time? And why are we like, why is Kirk here? And like, yeah, exactly.
It has to happen.
Right. And or even Guinan's aura, there's a whole thing going on. And I'm just like, I get they're trying to, like, even in our talking points earlier about the dreamlike sequence, I get that that's what it's supposed to be, but also there's real life changes in the story that happens, right? So how is it dreamlike and also real? Like, that's not really so I definitely picked up on some of the plot holes.
They pull a Nolan and don't really explain it. They're just like, well, just go with it.
Well, Nolan at least tries to give you an explanation.
I mean, honestly, I don't do anything here. That's why
they don't tell you anything.
That's all we got, guys.
A bit to a point. It's like there's a scene where Guinan says, it's an energy field, and it can, you can go through any point in time. You exist in one spot or another, depending on how you interact with the ribbon. Like,
yeah, I mean, that sounds like someone that wrote Mission Impossible too.
Yeah, when you're in the ribbon, you can't affect it. It's like it's a netherworld, and also like a way to travel time in a way. It's both in one. If you're inside, you can't change anything. But you can land in any point in time, which is crazy.
I want to talk a little bit more between how that happens with Kirk and Picard, but we'll talk about that when we go more into the plot. Yeah.
Yeah. Mikey, what about you? What were your thoughts of Star Trek Generations?
Mikey's like the Cerberus. Oh, sorry, that's Mission Impossible 2 again. Sorry, fuck.
I mean, I thought it was okay. I was really hoping for more interaction between the new cast and the old cast. So, I mean, I did like what they did with the new cast, but I don't think they really introduced a lot of the new cast, because they try to do a little bit like with Data. They try to do something a little different with him. And I do agree with James. It was kind of annoying. It was more annoying than it was funny. I know he was trying to be like the comic relief. Didn't really work for me. So you only got a little taste of all the new people, and I really think I would have liked at least having one side be the majority of the movie and having a lot more interaction with the older characters. So this one didn't work the greatest for me. However, I did like the stuff with the Nexus. For me, sci-fi needs a little bit of discovery, and I thought that was kind of a nice play on some of the things they could have worked with. I just didn't think they pulled it off here. There was like not much that happened this whole movie. There was one big battle scene. There's a little bit of fighting at the end, but it's like not much plot-wise even happened, and everything kind of revolves around this Nexus that, in my opinion, they could have like leaned into a little bit more, and I thought it would be a little bit cooler that way.
That makes sense. I'll be a little quick on mine, and then we can delve into a little more into the plot and talk about that. It's much different viewing now than it was back then when I was young, when I was like 11. Fuck, I was Damn. Age when I saw this. I liked it back then. You know, I was excited. Again, it was mainly because I was excited about this crew being on the big screen. But watching it now, I do agree with you guys that it does feel like a TV show on the big screen. With James and I said $35 million budget, and wondering where the fuck the money went. Salary,
I'm
probably.
assuming it was the visual effects too. Like,
yeah.
So honestly, visual effects not bad.
The visual effects actually aged pretty good, with the exception of that bottle at the beginning. I was like,
I was gonna say when they show it, I was like, a little rough. But I mean, 94 though, not bad for 94.
Yeah, too much, I guess.
I remember the marketing for this movie was aimed at the fact that the old guard and the new guard are going to work together, and they sold it like that. But what the end product that you get is just sort of like that doesn't happen. Like, we're talking about 40.
They would have tore that up as if this was like a movie and they were saying this, and then you saw it, you're like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
That was one of the major complaints. It's like, well, it shows like in the trailer, it's an extended version of Kirk and Jean-Luc on the horseback, and there's actually, I think, extra dialogue in the trailer. And you're like, oh, okay. And that shit doesn't happen till like an hour almost towards the end of the fucking movie, and you're just waiting for that scene. So
young Marco, preteen Marco was actually waiting. You know, he's like, "My God, where is it?
Where's the fucking horse scene?
Where's the scene? I've been waiting all day for this."
Yeah, the new crew, I think, was handled haphazardly. They call back to unless you've seen the entire show of The Next Generation, you're not gonna get half the shit they're saying. And I don't know why they did that. I think that was a huge mistake. I was like, dude, you're inviting a new audience, a general audience, to like this movie, and it's like you calling back shit from season 1, episode 1. And then the motion chip thing with Data was also something that they visited throughout the show, and it's like, that's not something you should put in a movie. But I digress. The plot.
Were they trying to do that just to do like a comedic relief kind of moment? Like, hey, look, it's not so serious.
Well, Data was always a comic relief kind of character because he was always a stilted person on the.
But he was super competent too. Like, that's the thing. Like, he balanced himself out, and in the show, like, he was he is Spock. He is the Spock character with no emotion. Very logical because he's an android.
From him, yeah.
No, yeah, and they switch it up, and probably, I don't know why they want to add comic relief, they say, and probably they don't want to copy Spock, but it worked, and it worked for this crew, so they should have.
Honestly, he's always kind of scared me, even when I was a kid, because I didn't realize he was like an android when I was a kid, because I was stupid. Yeah. I'm not even joking. Like, he literally scared the fuck out of me as a kid. So
watching this now, yeah, he was kind of creepy. Especially with that 80s makeup, but
I think it's a makeup too because it looks so bad.
Yeah.
Well, watching this now, they sort of mishandled this crew because I watch some of the episodes here and there sometimes before I go to bed or something of the old TV show. It's like night and day a little bit. They do such a better job in the show at handling these characters than they did in the movie, and I just don't get why they made that change. It just, I don't know. It didn't work. The plot. So there is a ribbon called the Nexus that travels throughout the galaxy and takes you to this netherworld, and Soren experiences it at the beginning of the movie, and Kirk perishes, quote unquote, at the beginning when we first experience it. And Soren is trying to get to it because he lost his family, and he's trying to get that sensation back, and the Nexus kind of gives you that in a way. And he's, I guess, committing somewhat of a genocide trying to do that, killing planets to try to bring the ring towards him. What did you guys, I'll leave this up. What did you guys think about that, about this plot compared to the previous installments? Do you think that had weight to it? Did you feel like there was any sense of urgency with that?
I didn't think there was, quite honestly, because like we never get to see anything from his point of view. It's just like stuff that's like talked about off screen about Soren, which I thought was not a good move, because it's like, dude, at least if you're going to emotionally connect me to the villain somehow to kind of maybe be like, oh, I see where he's coming from. But like his plot was just like a cheesy plot, in my opinion, because I never got to see that he's like, yeah, exactly. And he's just talking about stuff. I'm like, I would have loved to at least seen some interaction, at least in maybe in the beginning prequel with like his family, and then there's like that's why I have to go and do this
Right.
or something. I don't
We
know.
never see any of the danger either. They say like planets are getting destroyed with people on
We
it.
never
show
see it.
that. Yeah.
Once again, I don't know if that's a budget thing, but God, they should have maybe snuck that in, I guess. Especially because like the scale they're aiming for is such a it's presumably a huge scale, right?
Right.
But like you said, we just never see it.
It doesn't feel like a grand. It feels like a TV show, like you guys were saying. Like it feels like I don't know. They couldn't fit in the budget. They couldn't add any more scenes that show the imminent danger of it. Compared to like say the Undiscovered Country, we feel the weight of it. You can sense like the urgency. They got to stop this assassination. It's going to affect the whole like galaxy or the Federation. And here it just feels like, okay, they got to stop this, but I just don't, I can't connect to it. I don't know. I feel like that was mishandled. We talk about the connection between like the two generations and the fact that Kirk and Picard working together. It should have been way at the beginning of the movie, right?
I think it was introed. Was that a Shatner thing though? Maybe they're like, I'll only be in the scene this long or something. Maybe.
Truthfully, I don't know. Originally, there were other members that were supposed to be in the movie. Like
we're trying to get them all back. I saw,
but when
Scott and Bones too was like, "No, we're good, dude."
So, but they saw how short of a screen time it was going to be, so that was already part of it, which is makes it weird why Shatner.
So maybe they were always just doing that beginning and end part, I guess.
But they do give you a lot of screen time with Shatner at the beginning, right? So you get like 10 minutes at the beginning of the film. With him
but
going
he's
through
gone
that
for
whole
an hour, Nabil.
Then I know, and then he's gone, and he kind of comes back for another 15, 20 minutes,
20 tops
at the end. I mean, the film's like 90 minutes, right? So
ketchup on my mouth.
No, that's what I was also saying earlier
From
with the Nexus, right? So they could have used the Nexus in more parts of the movie to tie some of these characters.
Right?
Yeah,
it should have focused solely on like a time travel aspect the entire time.
Yep.
I know this is rewriting the movie, but I'm just saying, almost like and then to see more interactions between Picard and Kirk and how different they are as captains, I think would have worked so well, man.
So instead of having the ship scene, because you get a little bit of Picard in the ship scene, right, where he's like, kind of like, oh, to not have all these computers and stuff like that, and you kind of get a little bit, it gets the emotion stuff here, but you could have done that in the Nexus. Right?
Yeah.
True. And you could have had Kirk do the same thing. Like he's got all these memories, and I actually like what he did with Kirk on this one.
They could have had and they could have had the Nexus ring as he was changing the path, have it going towards Earth, and it would destroy the Earth or something. It would destroy some Federation complex to add more weight to it. Because having like a bunch of no offense, nobodies that we don't know and have no connection that are in danger. It's like
they're people too.
Well, they do dialogue a lot of the stuff though too. So like the how big this is and how like it's just like, oh yeah, there's like millions of people gonna die. Like, okay, like
it's all exposition though.
Yeah,
the entire time. What if we just tell you, not show you?
Exactly.
Well, they do like the chart, because I was trying to figure out, well, why is Soren doing this, right? And then you realize, oh, he keeps blowing up little things to move everything a little closer to the path of the Nexus, and so and he'll be able to jump in. But in my mind, I'm like, well, why don't you just get a ship to go on the path if you know what the path is, and just wait like last time, because you were in a ship there last time.
No, they explain that too. They explain that too. Yeah, they say that you can't do it because when your chips get close, they break down, so you can't get too close to it. Yeah, so it's like
he was in it at a point
all verbally against it. So yeah,
I don't know. I feel like that was them trying to beat it away because they were in a ship last time.
Yeah,
first pulled them out.
I think they're trying to say it's not enough time for you to stay in the Nexus, and you could potentially die versus a planet that gets destroyed slow. I don't know, Nabil. That's
I will say
movie logic.
We're overthinking it way too much. We realize that, audience. Trust us. We understand.
I will say that to the point of the like you guys are saying with the plot point of the Nexus, I think that it does play secondary. It's like the overarching villain here of coming in and destroying people. But we did have other things, like we had the Klingons, right, that were in there, and I thought that was a bit more fun. We didn't get as much time as we should have, but just the fact that they were there helping out Soren, there was a bit of fighting there and action at the beginning. There was definitely a good setup of something that was going to happen.
That's almost like such an unnecessary subplot, though. Having them,
it was just shoved in, shoehorned in there.
I understand those two sisters are from the show, so that's probably like a thing. If you watch the shows, you're like, oh, it's the Ursa sisters or whatever the fuck they're called, right? But I mean,
if you've never seen the show,
having a connection, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's go into some of the characters. Because, man, this plot, yeah, we go on and on about it. And we'll leave this one open. What were your guys' thoughts on Captain Picard and the emotions he's going through in the movie? We'll leave this one open.
Well, I like Picard overall. I mean,
you're a big Next Gen fan, right?
I am a big Next Gen fan, but I also really like Patrick Stewart, his portrayal of Picard. I think he does a lot with the character, with what they're giving him here. You know, the whole thing about his family and just feeling the emotion and like being a authoritative and also a dick to like William Riker and saying like, just fucking do what I'm telling him, the captain. Why you question my, kind of thing.
Again, Nabil, they took that also from an episode of the Next Generation.
Look, I'm aware.
Like, why are we touching on stuff?
I'm 100% aware of where this plot is. That's like I said, it felt like an episode that I'd seen before, and I was like, huh. But at the same time,
why is this ring familiar
it's
with
so
me?
familiar, yeah. But like even the scene where he's with his kids, you know, that added a lot of the emotion there. I was like, okay, I can see where he's going. But I also feel that he's being used as somebody who's like, suddenly I have enough will to get out of this thing that I was feeling so much despair from, and I'm not strong enough to pull out of it because I have a duty as a captain. Whereas like the first 30 or 40 minutes of the film, you've just been, you know, sad and in the corner trying to let everybody else do this shit and not even worried about your crew getting captured. You know, like it's
right.
I feel that he's trying his best, but the writing is not helping him progress as a captain.
And the device, the reason that they give us for him having like this emotional battle, I don't think it's earned, because again, let me ask Mikey. Do you remember an episode going over Picard's family in the Next Generation? Do you remember his family that shows up in this movie from the TV show, or did you ever watch that episode?
I haven't seen that episode if they did have it, so I don't remember anything from it.
Like general audiences haven't seen it, and so using that for Picard's motivation is like, dude. You almost have had to have done homework for it to even like hit you or something, or for it
like,
to even
why is this kids in 19th century France? Nobody understands why they look like they're fucking during the colonial times.
Either. I was like, I guess this is what the world looks like or some shit. I had no idea.
It's weird, yeah.
And then it speaking of which, like his brother and nephew dying, right? Like they died in a fire or something, right?
Right.
It's really weird that that's all we get out of that. By the way, we don't. Once again. I thought it was really strange. Like, dude, no offense, the director only directed like TV episodes and shit before, and it kind of shows in this. Like the direction of this film, the way that it just progresses, especially the writing, like they're treating it like an extended cut of like a 2-parter episode, basically, or a 3-parter or something. That's how I felt. Because like the way they're saying stuff, I was like, oh yeah, because of course they wouldn't have the budget to show us like a disastrous. Like it would have been nice to see a little more, man. That's all.
What about Kirk? What are you guys' thoughts on that as compared to his original quote unquote send off in Star Trek 6 and this movie? Mikey, how do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I like Kirk in this one actually, because you get to see a little bit different side of him, because he's been like the whole rebellious guy the whole time we've seen in the other 6 movies. And in this one here, you get to see like, okay, he's kind of happy in the Nexus, but then he kind of wants that family feel because of what happened previously. You got, you know, the whole like first 10 minutes here, they kind of say this person has a family, and he's like,
Sulu,
oh, but wait, why didn't I have? Yeah, Sulu, that's what I was trying to think of his name. Thank you. And so he's like, oh, why didn't I have a family? And so now he's kind of in his head a little bit about like, hey, he kind of screwed his family life over.
Do you feel like that's introduced out of nowhere though, Mikey? Because he seems pretty like, but he seems like a totally different character from the last film.
Absolutely, yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, he's kind of different. But you kind of, at least for me, I kind of felt like it was like kind of justified a little bit, because he's after his work now. He's retired, right? So now he is thinking about his life and like his decisions he made, his family a little bit more than he would have in the past while he was a captain and like living his life that way. So I felt like it was kind of justified a little bit that he was a little different, because he's in a different place in his life.
True. Makes sense. The villain in this movie, as we've mentioned, is Tolian Soren. I already forgot his name. How do you feel about that, James?
I like Malcolm Mandel. He plays a good villain. I always think of him from Clockwork Orange.
Same.
And, you know, amongst others. Then he was every like 90s villain, really, for the most part, I feel.
he did good with what he was given. But
Yeah, he's a good actor. That's why. So
Yeah.
I can't shoot him down for what they're. He's sweating like in every scene though. Every scene he's sweating. I was just, damn, he's just sweating.
Because he got to get
he's,
back.
he's inside the air conditioned ship and he's still sweating. It's like,
Yeah,
bro,
well,
they got the AC
I
blasting.
assume the Klingons didn't have AC, so he's like,
Oh
"Ugh."
yeah, yeah. They don't believe that shit.
There's supposed to be some stank on that place, right?
I
So-
wish, kind of like what you guys were saying, that we could have seen more, like a clip or a flashback of his family, him and his family or something. Give him
it
more
would have
like
helped so much.
Just
We're
dialogue.
just
They just go and say, "We know that your family were killed or whatever," and that's it. And that's his
Dude, it's
motivation.
really like
I guess.
dossier kind of like photo, like this is him, like his family was killed, blah blah. So ever since then, he's been looking for him. Like, how do you guys know that?
Right.
Also, another thing that was supposed to be, well, not big in this movie, but a connection, and they don't really clarify in the movie. He's the same species as Guinan. They're called Elorians, and
I picked that up. Yeah,
but I don't feel like that was emphasized like enough, or even given like they are in a way.
Didn't she say something about it or no?
She did, but they don't go on. They're they're super empathetic, and they can almost like sense your emotions or how you're
I
feeling.
read it up. She's kind of like a Yoda character, apparently. Kind of, I guess.
Kind of, yeah. She's a guide, really, and their species is kind of like that. And I feel like they could have emphasized that more, and that's how Soren can always get a one up on the captains. Because
I gotta ask you guys a question real quick too. Is there a bar on the Enterprise?
yeah, it's called 10 Forward.
Oh, okay, yeah. See, I'm coming as I was just like, wait, are they at a club now? I was like, is there a club on the Enterprise?
I will add, James, though, to that point of the club, the fact that the captain is on there and everybody still partied, I would have been
That's what
like,
I mean.
"Oh, the fucking captain's on deck, guys. We got to at least salute him."
I was thinking like a Top Gun moment where everybody stops, but I guess it's because they're off duty or something if they're there, right?
It's that, and it's part of their culture. They believe in just people having recreation. That's how they keep them sane, being like in deep space. It's like if it's just
I was gonna say that's part of most people's culture.
Well, I mean, I think of
Like, you like to party? I like to party.
I think of sailors going to port. You know what I mean? Like it's hard for them to go to port. That's the
Assumed.
important stuff.
Assumed,
The action or the lack thereof, as James would say. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
There's not much to talk about.
It was still stilted like the other films. Still, it still played like a 70s, 80s kind of Star Trek action.
Even
film
like
for
when
some
they're
reason.
shooting at Soren on the satellite, when they're trying to get him for the first time or second time before he goes again with Geordi, it looks so bad. That's what I always hate about Star Trek. Like compared to Star Wars, like when they're shooting at each other, I'm like, oh man, seems dorky as fuck.
And I know they're not trained to be like warriors or anything. It's supposed to be, they're peacemakers. But at the same time, they all get these fucking guns that kill, right? So there's some training involved that they should be able to do some basic like fighting and stuff like that. Especially for a film that's in '94.
They're still trained to be proficient. So yeah, it's like
it looked a bit it could have been better.
It's very lackluster.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes down to like no one hits anybody. Like, they're all stormtroopers, right? I mean, it's
that's what I was thinking too, Mikey. I was like, God, they can't hit the blind side of a barn right now.
Do you think, compared to, because in the other movies you see them like hit people and they get shot? Do you think this was done to keep the rating down?
Yeah, I think
it definitely it
I can see
hindered
that.
the movie.
I can definitely see that. Now that you bring it up, I'm like, actually, that makes sense. I guess.
Any other thoughts on characters or the plot before we move into our rating of the film?
As somebody that's not a fan of thing, like as a next generation, like jumping into the characters, like it seems interesting. Don't get me wrong, but it's obviously this one I feel like is aimed a little bit more toward the fans of that show. Especially, I didn't realize that the show had just like ended like a few months prior, so this was like the first time them seeing him since like May. So like 5 months later or so, you know.
It was a successful show, and I think they're trying to bank on that, but it's at the same time you're sort of like excluding, a whole new generation of people.
I felt like it was like
enjoyed this.
And this is the stuff that I remember when I was a kid of like being like put off by Star Trek because there was so much lore and history behind it. I'm like, I can't get into that,
Right.
That's what it reminded me of, at least. I know that's not entirely true, but That's how I felt. So
No, I was just going to nitpick too on the fact that they tossed that champagne glass on this Enterprise and all those shards of glass are in space and who's going to die from it? Because anyways, clean it
They have
up.
shields, Nabil.
Yeah, they could have
Okay.
replaced that scene with a 15-minute roundabout of the Enterprise.
Hey, they did it in the first film, right? They could have done it in this one too.
They have
honestly,
shields,
I might have
Nabil,
been okay. I might have been okay with it.
but apparently they don't have seatbelts in space. So
Apparently not.
lastly, the last thing I'll cover really is the destruction of the Enterprise D. It was iconic, and it was also for some of the fans of the show, it was a little bit heartbreaking because you'd seen
It
the
actually
ship.
looked good, by the
Yeah,
way.
it was nice.
That crash scene, I was like, this is where the money went into.
That ship is iconic. It's supposed to be the flagship of the Federation throughout the show, and even I think even during this movie, it's like the most advanced like ship of the time. And yeah, it was unreal that they would like actually destroy it that quickly. But
I like that the fact that they did it was because like we have to do it because we want to make movies, and this ship ain't gonna work.
yeah. It was designed for TV, but man, it looks cool anyway.
It does. No, it does. That was cool that the front dish comes out like a escape pod thingy. I guess.
Yeah, they've done that a few times in the show, and when they put it in the movie, like everybody's like, all right, but too bad they only do it just to crash it. Oh well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
It's a last resort, right? You got to do it. Yeah.
yeah, I can see that.
All right, and into our rating of Star Trek Generations, we'll start with you, Mikey. What do you rate Star Trek Generations?
I gave it 2.5. It was okay, but I thought they could have done a lot more.
All right, makes sense. Nabil, what do you rate Star Trek Generations?
I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed it, but there's definitely a lot of plot holes in here.
Mr. BDJ, what do you rate Star Trek Generations?
I also give this one 2.5 stars. I think this is one of the weaker ones we've seen so far, but I'm hoping the other Next Generation films pick it up a bit.
All right, that's fair.
Oh, Nabil looks like
They're
setting yourself up for disaster. Yikes! Damn, Nabil. Okay, my bad.
I as much as I was nitpicking this movie as well with you guys, I still give it 3 stars. Also, a lot of it has to do with nostalgia and my love of the TV show and the crew. I think that, you know, it has a lot of shortcomings, but I think it still holds true in my heart. So
All right, let's move on now to our review of Wolfman.
We have to leave right now. Run.
Hello? Can anyone hear me? Hello? We were in an accident.
Daddy, are we gonna die?
No, it's my job to protect you.
And we were attacked. I think my husband was infected.
Wolfman, sitting at a 54% on Rotten Tomatoes. The synopsis is a family at a remote farmhouse are attacked by an unseen animal, but as the night stretches on, the father begins to transform into something unrecognizable. Directed by Lee Winnell, who also did Insidious Chapter 3, Upgrade, and The Invisible Man, was also written by Lee Winnell, who did Saw, he also wrote Dead Silence and Insidious, and Corbett Tuck. This film was released on January 17th of this year in theaters, with a budget of $25 million. It stars Christopher Abbott as Blake Lovell, also Wolfman, Julia Garner as Charlotte Lovell, Matilda Firth as Ginger Lovell, Sam Yeager as Grady Lovell, Benedict Hardy as Derek. All right, I'm going to first go to our horror expert here, and I'm going to go to you, James. What did you think about this movie?
I thought it was just okay. I was pretty disappointed overall, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I really like Lee Winnell. I think he's a really great writer. I think Invisible Man was his last movie. I thought was fantastic.
Yes.
That was like one of the last movies we saw right before COVID too.
Mm-hmm.
Hit the world, the before time, as we talk about it. But this one, I think it had some pacing issues, and I think overall, it just didn't give me enough reason to care. So that's all I'll say for now. So
I'm sure we're going to explore on that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Let's go to you, Marco. What were your thoughts about the movie?
I thought it was okay. Also, I agree with BDJ. It's pacing issues and The plot was decent. Didn't really elicit. It elicited some emotions, but not a lot.
Right. How about you, Mikey? What were your thoughts?
That was okay as well. I think the human element of this movie is not done very well. However, I did like the creature, like the transformation they did throughout the movie. It was like a slow progression, so I liked it. And some of the horror elements were really well done too. So it was okay, but could have been better.
This sounds like we're gonna have a much more stimulating conversation compared to our last one on Wolfman. Yeah, because I feel the same. It was fine. The movie was okay. There's some things I definitely liked. I love the transformation, the way they were progressing, but God, was it slow. And I don't feel like we really got to see as much as I was expecting from the trailers, because I think everything that was exciting happened in the trailers. So yeah, I think we should talk a little bit about just the characters first, just to get an idea of what we were working with. We have Blake, who actually ends up becoming a little bit of spoiler here, but you again see it in the trailers that he does eventually become the Wolfman. He's a subject.
Yeah, I mean, someone's got to do it. It's not the daughter. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And then we have Charlotte and Ginger, who's the mother and daughter, or the wife and daughter, I guess. I'm gonna just go back to you, James, just to talk to you about the characters. Let me just start before we even go into Blake. Let me get your thoughts on Julia Garner's character, Charlotte. Did you know that she was old enough to be a mother at this point? Because
I actually brought this up, even seeing trailers. I'm like, that does not seem like someone. I was like, she's like way younger, right?
Yeah.
I was like, she have a kid when she was like 12 or something?
I was thinking the same. I was like, what? How old is she? I looked her up online too. I was like, oh, she's okay. She's 30.
Like, yeah, doesn't look like it. Nope. I mean, we wouldn't know because she has no chemistry at all with Christopher Abbott, by the way. Her and Julia Garner are just people talking. If you had told me they were casual friends that had just met, I would believe you in this movie because, dude, I felt like their chemistry was nothing. It was terrible. Even when they're hinting at like me. I don't know. I even texted Mikey halfway through on my watch, and I was like, "Wolfman, le divorce," right? What the fuck are they trying to get at? Like, and then the thing is, like, Blake has supposedly like anger issues. Maybe they're hinting at it with a daughter in the beginning when she's climbing on thing.
But it doesn't really go anywhere with that.
And then when the wife is like on the phone, he's like, Can you take your girl somewhere else? And he gets hell angry. Is it because like his dad was a dude that got really angry all the time?
I think they were trying to just kind of show the mirror,
which is not a good way to show it, by the way, because it did not do that well at all.
It's supposed to be like a cycle of like anger issues and trauma.
Yeah, but that was nothing.
It was very tame.
I was like, are we only going to show it twice? That's it? Because then outside of that, he seems like a really loving father, right? He's just like, my job is to protect you.
Well, I think it's to kind of show like how his father treated him, right? Like it was ingrained in him from a young age.
Hold on, though, Mike. That's from one scene where they're out hunting with rifles, and this dipshit runs off by himself. Like, no offense, like I would have got yelled at too, the same, but I wouldn't have taken that like my father.
But, I mean, that's not the way you're supposed to like tell a child either. He's a fucking kid, dude. It's like they don't know anything. Like we have.
Well, they're living off the grid, though, right? They're living off the grid in the middle of fucking nowhere. You would expect
how does the kid know that?
Because they've been living out there supposedly his whole life. I would assume
he's living his whole life,
right? But it's like, dude, again, they don't know shit, dude. Like they're trying to imply that it was probably tame.
They did a shitty way of showing it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
they could have amped that up a lot more to really give me like, his dad was a really fucking monster. Like, oh my god.
No, I feel like, at least to me, that first like 15-minute
100%.
scene, it was enough to show like the dad was a dick.
Okay.
For me, at least. Yeah, for me.
Because then he defends him and he's like, Wolf the man don't know how to jump a fence, I guess, or something.
But it's true. But I mean, just that's the whole thing with like people who have like severe anger issues or even abuse tendencies is they still act like normal people. They're not like abusive or angry all the time, but like they still have that, It's
I
like an alcoholic,
I guess that
they have like that's why I'm saying they're kind of tame because they held back like a little bit. They should have showed like one more scene.
Yeah, did that. Maybe when he was like eavesdropping on him, listening, then he like more outbursts, not just a sly side eye at him, like
yeah.
Hey, and then 17 years later.
Oh, even
too subtle.
Anger aside, the whole thing is that what was the net benefit of that for this plot? where were we going with it? Because I know he's turning into the Wolfman, but it wasn't because of anger.
We're rewriting the movie. I get it.
It's supposed to be the Wolfman was supposed to be a representation of that.
Have you guys seen the original Wolfman? I forgot to ask you guys that too. Have you seen the 1920s or 30s
one? I've seen the original. Yeah, the original.
This is very reminiscent of that plot because it's a father-son kind of thing. So, like, I get it. And by the way, that movie's decent for a movie that's almost 100 years old at this point. So
it was pretty good. I can't say the same about some of the other.
I got to bring up one last thing too, and the child actor is fucking terrible. Ginger's terrible.
Ginger, yeah.
And Marco better not be like, she was great. No, she was fucking terrible.
You seen the one with Jack Nicholson, Wolf? You see?
Oh, the late 80s, early 90s one?
I saw Teen Wolf. You see that one?
I've never seen that one, actually. I've heard that one's good, though, Marco.
I've seen Teen Wolf, though.
I've seen American Werewolf in London.
Oh, yeah.
All this. I mean, I've seen a lot of werewolf movies, but
not the same movie, that's for sure.
Yeah, Ginger here when it was like, God.
No, it was a pretty lackluster performance.
I was like, damn. So,
well, let's continue on with talking about the plot as a whole then, because the premise of the film is that they're essentially just a family, and like James was kind of alluding to earlier, but the relationship with Blake and Charlotte seems like they're a bit fractured. Maybe they're having some trouble.
I don't know. We don't.
They seem at least have gotten a little distant, but we all know for sure that Blake loves his daughter Ginger, and he's a great father, even though he has some anger moments. They make sure you know that he loves his daughter and that the daughter loves him.
I think I saw Charlotte talk to Ginger once in the whole movie.
Yeah, exactly.
They forgot they were on the same set. They're like, oh shit, that's supposed to be my daughter.
So they essentially.
But I think that was part of the. Again, it was handled haphazardly, but they even mentioned like she feels like she has like no connection to her daughter. Like
because they tell us that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but why, Marco? They don't do anything but just tell you that. You know,
she's busy. True. That's why she's busy.
She's a journalist. She's doing journalist things.
She's got a career, and he's just a stay-at-home writer.
Got a fucking editor
between jobs. And they tell the hick.
Yeah.
He's like, "What's your job?"
And the hick judges him.
Yeah, like when he says between jobs, he's like, "Piece of shit."
So Blake's father is pronounced dead, I guess officially from the state. That's how they tell us, is that he's officially dead, but it seems like he's not, but he might be.
Very reminiscent of the original Wolfman plot.
Yeah.
I had already known what happened without even seeing the old movie.
Oh, Marco, we all did.
Now you've seen the trailer. I didn't even see the trailer for this.
Yeah, so Blake takes his family up to this cabin that his dad had to go and essentially pack up everything. And they get there and an incident happens. And suddenly they're attacked by this creature, which they believe is a wolfman, I guess, or something. And they're trapped in the house, and they've got all night to try to survive in order to finally find a way out, hopefully by dawn, if they can just stop.
Maybe I don't really know what their plan was.
Yeah, I don't know what they had no car. There's a whole other thing, but
they never get a hold of anyone on the fucking radio either.
CB radio, yeah.
Well, also earlier, like in the beginning 15 minutes again, the dad was talking about the creature, and he said he only comes out at night, right? So I think Blake is already like kind of knowing that, hey, we just got to make it. No,
Mike, you messed it up. He said he thought it only comes out at night. It comes out during the day too. That was daytime when it attacked him.
Yeah,
it was still like sunset. Yeah, it was just.
Oh, maybe I misheard then. But yeah, I always thought it was like.
I only thought it comes out. That's even Lee Winnell had said like this is not the traditional one that only comes out with the full moon or nighttime. He'll come out at any time thing because it's more of
the full moon wasn't even a thing in this one.
Like Jason, I get it.
Basically, he just standing there. Hey. Oh my God! It's broad daylight. We're just doing paintballing with the company, and he's killing everyone. It's a deep cut, if you know.
So Mikey, what do you think about how this plot was rolling out, the whole premise of Wolfman and how he got infected, and like, what did you think that this worked for a horror film of this?
They call it wolf face or something. The disease. Yeah. I swear to God, I think it's called wolf face, right?
Face of the wolf. Yeah,
face of the wolf.
Yeah,
there you go.
Wolf.
There you go. Yeah. Sorry, wolf face. Fuck.
I mean, it's super predictable. Every single scene, every single thing that happens while they're at the cabin there is super predictable.
I saw this with Mikey, by the way, just let you know. And
it was date night,
Mikey,
like always, right?
Yeah, Mikey was wearing his wolf hoodie.
By the kiss marks on your neck.
I was trying to hide it with makeup, you son of a bitch, Marco.
Sorry.
I do always have to say as well, like they tell you everything in the first 15 minutes of this movie. Like you know exactly who the creature is. You know exactly, you know, everything that's going to happen because they just foreshadow everything in the first 10 minutes of this movie. So I'm like, okay, well, I already know who everybody is. I already know who or what's going to happen in this movie, where scenes are going to go. Like, I just feel like everything was kind of just thrown out there for you. Right?
Isn't it weird they bring the mushrooms, by the way, Mikey? I thought they were gonna. I thought they were foreshadowing the death mushrooms. I was like, oh, they'll use that for later, and then no.
So I think those mushrooms are actually. I don't know if specifically, so I might be wrong, but I think they were kind of alluding to because the Wolfman is more of an infection this time. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later. But there is an ant called the zombie ant that when they eat a certain mushroom, they get like overtaken and they don't control themselves and they like.
Are those the ants that are killing that bug in the beginning?
Yeah, so I think there was kind of like a reflection of like what the Wolfman is trying to be as well. So I think that was like I think those mushrooms that he was talking about are the ones that caused that to happen. So I think that's what they were trying to play in. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know there is a mushroom that makes the ants do that. So
if that's what they were doing to try to introduce those. There's so much like
I'll smoke a cigarette. Someone will get it.
That's how the mushroom reproduces. Yeah.
It just makes no that there. I don't know what they were thinking about when writing this, but I think there was a lot more expectation of being able to show this in the film when they were writing it. It's like, okay, we can frame this in a way and it'll make sense, and it never really came true when they finally did put it to film. Whatever.
They were thinking about a Wolfman. You silly. What do you mean?
No, but I mean the plot is simple. I mean it's every single like locked in a cabin thing, right?
Yeah.
They make bad decisions on what to do, where to go. You know,
it's one of those like locked in a cabin with someone that's getting progressively sick and worse, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they do have good elements though. Like throughout, like I think, like seeing the Wolfman out the windows. You know,
creepy,
the slow reveal of the Wolfman too.
Yeah, it was good. Cool like you just see his hands and shit. Yeah. It was kind of creepy. We saw it in IMAX where our fucking ears are getting blown out again. So, you know.
Yeah, same.
God damn.
I was just like, my head hurt.
Marco, you were touching earlier on the pacing of the film. It was kind of throwing you off. What was your critique there?
Just the fact that we spent all this time with, I guess, you know, I'm gonna call it normal world, where it's, you know, you're hunting. I get it. You're establishing the characters, and then we're with the main characters as a family, and I get it. You're trying to see, you know, Blake, Charlotte's, and Ginger's, you know, chemistry or lack thereof. But I feel like we're just hovering over this too long before we get to like the meat of the plot, and it's like, okay, cool. I understand what you're doing here, but it's not working. Let's move this along. Then we finally get to the wilderness, back to Oregon, and still like nothing's happening. Like I'm thankful that this is not really a spoiler, that the moving truck that they're in ends up crashing and something suspenseful happens, because it's a lot of setup, kind of like what these guys are saying. Like it doesn't really pay off as much, especially because, again, the chemistry really isn't there between the characters and the actors. And yeah, the kid is sorry to say, a shitty actor. So
as soon as I saw it, I said Marco's gonna have a problem.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, dude. Like it would have had a bigger payoff, one, if they had better chemistry and if there was a better performance. Really disappointed in Julia Garner too. She is on a Netflix TV show called Ozark as well. She does a lot better there.
Really good.
Though her character, not her, but her character gets a little bit annoying, but she plays it off pretty well. In this, she's just very like, I don't know, just.
I thought you were actually acting like her for a second, Mark. I was like, yeah, you got it down. That's exactly what she's like in the whole fucking movie.
Yeah. I at times I even forget she's in the movie, because I'm like, what is she even doing? Is she like, it's like she didn't know what to do with the character, you know? But again, the pacing is just, this hurts the pacing in that manner. Is the combination of all this just makes the movie feel so sluggish, and it's only like an hour and 45 minutes long, and it feels like a 2-hour movie, 2.5-hour movie.
It's very slow. Oh, go ahead, Mikey.
I was just like, I didn't have problems with pacing. I know, I think all three of you said pacing was really bad, but I didn't really have a problem with it. I didn't think
I
it
wasn't
was
thinking that
slow.
was slow, Mikey. I think that it rockets toward the end. At the end, for me, from the climax going forward, for me, that's where I had an issue.
But don't most horror movies kind of do that though? They kind of amp it up at the end to kind of finish things off, or a lot of them do at least. I didn't really have a problem with it,
though, Mikey. You know, like they don't spend. Maybe it's because we're so used to them not spending too much like exposition with the main characters, and they're just sort of like they're just bait.
Because I just feel like this movie kind of just like leaned into the transformation a little bit more. Like the whole process of him becoming the Wolfman was like the main lead of the story, right? Because they tried. No, but like this change happens through like an hour of the movie, right? Like it sets it up. He gets scratched.
Yeah, but then he
like,
finally becomes,
kind of feels it, right?
He's not the actual. I don't know, Wolfman until the last like 10 or 15 though.
Right.
Well, they really rush
crazy, right? Yeah.
He's gonna do all the shit. You know, like.
Yeah, but it's like they try to like portray, like they even show a couple times, and I wish they did some more with this here, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later here, but maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit. But they do this thing where you see it from his point of view, and it's like a little different. Yeah. Like so, it's kind of cool aspect of things, and I think they were trying to like make you a little bit more involved with like his transformation from a person to this wolf creature, right? And so they were trying to make that the main point of the movie, not the slasher part of it at the end that we got that kind of seems rushed, or like the ending seems rushed. I think they were really trying to focus on that transformation instead of really the actiony horror stuff that we get at the end.
But I think that you get a lot of, even if the story's thin, you get a lot of momentum at the beginning, like the first 15 minutes of this film. Like the first quarter of the film, things are happening. They go into the woods or whatever, and that shit happens, right? And they're trying to run off to the cabin. Once they're in the cabin, the momentum really comes to a halt. That, like, yes, we're watching the transformation, and I think though there's elements over there, I agree, that are really interesting, especially like getting to see his point of view and what he's seeing and what they're seeing. It takes a long time though for them to explain that what he's experiencing and what they're experiencing, the family, are two different things. And I was like, when is this? What is happening? When are you going to explain this? And they finally do get to it. And then they lean a little bit too much. And yes, there's interesting stuff that's happening outside of it. But a lot of it is we don't get to see that. Even like when the transformation does happen and there's a fight between the Wolfman and the other Wolfman, that's not being shown. We don't see half the fight, you know? We see bits of it. We see what happens inside the cabin. But it's like, are we just locked into the cabin the whole film? So I think it really does, until we get to the last part of the film, or at least when they escape for a little bit, there's a lot of slowdown. It just kind of halts things for a bit in the movie. That's at least where I'm coming from it. And so it's a horror film, right? So there's going to be practical effects, there's dark lighting, there's interesting shots like we were talking about. James, I'm going to go to you. It was very dark for me. I don't know if it was just my theater.
No, it was dark. It was dark.
James, what were your thoughts on how that played into the horror aspect of the film? Was that something that did actually work for you?
It's showing you like the contrast between like, oh, it's pitch black for them, but for him, when he's turning into this thing, he can see like it's just like a normal day, right? And I did like that aspect of where he's going into the wolf mode, where I don't know what he's talking about, but like where he's transforming and he's like can't understand them. It's something kind of heartbreaking with that, where he can't understand his family's trying to tell him like, we love you still, and he's like scared, and they in return can't understand him because when he's talking, he's just kind of sounds like he's just talking nothing, basically.
Right.
And even them, like the eyes turn all like silvery, and it's kind of creepy on his end. Like he sees them almost turning into like monsters, right? But I don't know. He has enough of that humanity left. But I liked how several of the shots, the scene where the moving van crashes. I think the camera is like behind the car or something, or top of it. Well, I mean, I thought that's one of the best shots in the film, and how it lands and breaks through the trees and then ends up where that. I thought it was a really good shot. So I
agree. I was going to add the crash scene is actually one of my favorite scenes, also, just because it's so confusing. You feel like you're actually in the accident with them, which is nice, and then you don't know what direction they're in. Like in most accidents, you're like in movies, you're like, oh, okay, they're upside down or they're this. You don't know what direction they're in, and then the reveal that they're just hanging in midair with the trees. I thought that was pretty fucking cool and creepy at the same time.
Yeah, it was a good
while
trick.
Being stalked by a freaking literal creature. I think that added to the suspense. I wish that would have been pushed, forward, a little sooner, because that's when the plot really starts to go through. But practical effects of this movie also look really good. Again, just the slow reveals of the wolf, the arm crashing while they're crashing into the side door, and you just see this freaking hairy arm. I thought Nabil was in the movie. I was like, Nabil, what are you doing, man?
I mean, you can't hate on the grossness of. I'm just thinking about it now of him like eating his own arm and the nail.
Dude, that was the first scene where I literally was like, "Oh fuck!"
Yeah.
Like, good God, dude.
No, dude, when he's scratching it, I was like, "Oh my God, dude, what are you doing?" At first, I was like, "Oh, animal instinct. They nibble or lick their wounds." No, he's going fucking ham on it. I'm like, "What are you doing?"
But it's also like, I get it. It's like a mosquito bite sometimes. Like, sometimes it just feels so good.
Just biting on your meat there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a little intense, but I was like, oh God, let it go.
But I also agree with James. I like the wolf vision that we see. Like, it's something I've never seen in a werewolf movie, where you see the point of view of the wolf and what they see, and it's pretty freaky, and it kind of adds to like, oh, that's why they're acting like that, because everything looks fucking freaky to them. So it's like, all right, that makes sense. I'd be a fucking wild animal too if I kept seeing like literal hell in front of me.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really awesome. It was a little touching. I think some of Matilda's acting is a little bit good when she's like, because you can't understand what she's saying, so it kind of works. You're just like, oh man, like he can't
Marco's
understand
like,
them.
I wonder what he means by that.
Yeah. But I think that also, on a total separate note, it adds more to kind of the theme of like when someone's traumatized or when someone has an issue, like that communication, you have trouble communicating to that. I saw it on a deeper level. See, and
he's
that
going
helps
deep,
my
guys.
experience.
Going deep.
Yeah, real deep.
He's in his feelings. Okay.
James, like, I want what he's smoking.
No, I mean I get it, but I hate when like I watch a movie and I have to hella reach sometimes to fucking make for poor writing. No offense to Lee Winnell, which is weird. He's written really well, good stuff, but like it's up to us to like fucking undo the puzzle pieces here and figure it out. You know, like fuck, man. Like write better shit, man. I don't have to do that for. I mean, even like a complex movie like Hereditary or fucking Midsummer, but like it's just really well written. Like I can figure it out. You know.
Yeah, true.
Agreed.
I mean, it's a fucking Wolfman movie. After what the fuck am I doing? I think it's because Invisible Man was so good that like you get to this.
Yeah,
that's really what it was. That's the last thing he's done. So.
But even that was also like had hidden meaning of like
it's all about trauma.
Abuse,
I don't feel like it was that hidden though. I felt like it was written better.
In your face here. Yeah.
I wonder if it's because that one was so like in your face. If maybe they wanted to throttle it down a little bit in this one, especially because it involved a kid. I don't know. That's just my speculation.
All right, let's talk about the recommendations of the film and our ratings before we go into the spoiler and just talk a little bit. I think we've talked quite a bit about the film, but talk a little bit about just that ending portion. I'm going to go to you, Mikey. What did you rate this film?
I gave this one 3. There's some redeeming stuff here. Overall I still enjoyed the hour and a half, 2 hours that I spent watching this, so definitely recommend.
Okay, all right. James, how about you?
I gave it 3 stars as well. Like I said, it was disappointing overall to me, but it was still good enough as like a kind of just like a entertaining watch, just for like a Wolfman movie, I guess, a modern day to take on Wolfman. Like I said, the practical effects are so good. I think there are moments that are really good for horror movies wise, the way it's shot, but I don't think it's essential to see it in theaters though. I think it's one of the movies like when it goes streaming, then you can kind of take it from there, I guess. So,
all right, Marco. How about yourself?
Is it possible to give it 6 stars? Can we do 6? is that a thing?
Well, me and James together is 6. So.
No, I give it 3 stars. Also, it's enjoyable. It's not perfect. I think if you do see it in theaters, don't see it in IMAX at least, or at least don't see it at the Fairfield Edwards IMAX. You'll blow your fucking eardrums. You know,
as with any other IMAX film, there. I think.
Yeah.
I gave this a little less than everybody. I gave it 2.5 stars. It was fine, but for a person who gets squeamish about everything in horror films, I was not impressed from what we've seen before. So, yeah.
Let's like shit was weak.
Yeah, kind of. Let's jump into our spoiler section. Before we do, if you haven't seen the film and you really want to know how it ends, I recommend you jump forward so we can say what we're going to watch next, and then come back so you can hear our thoughts about the ending of this film. Okay, so the film basically ends with the full transformation of Blake becoming the Wolfman and realizing that he's can't really control himself at this point and is on the attack of both his wife and daughter, or at least alleged wife and daughter. Can't tell.
I was gonna say supposedly,
that he's signaling some way that he needs to be stopped by them. Otherwise, he'll attack them, and they do. They supposedly shoot him, and they walk off into the sunset in Oregon somewhere, or sunrise.
Sunrise.
You know? Yeah.
I see the view. It seems
It's pretty. Yeah, he says it's beautiful.
What they talk
country.
about in the beginning.
Yeah,
it's a view you'll never forget, right?
I've never been to that part of Oregon, but I'm sure it's pretty. Marco, what were your thoughts about how that film ended? Like, do you think it was justified? Like, do you think we got a satisfying ending for where we were going through in this film?
I like the ending. I think it, in a way, even though the chemistry was kind of sad, was not there, it is kind of sad, and it's a little, emotional that he's sort of signaling for them to to kill him to end this, and for Charlotte to step up and be like the new protector of Ginger. You do sort of feel bad for Blake in his journey at this point, because he in a way, he's ending the cycle of his trauma and of his anger issues right there, and like killing it, in a way. And I think it worked. It was messy. It wasn't like a straight line necessarily, but I think it worked. And that ending shot, like, he talks about wanting to show Charlotte and Ginger that view where they're at with the sunrise, and he says, like, no matter what happens, like, you'll feel like everything will be okay, or something along those lines. And it's a really good shot. That's one of my other favorite shots too. It looks really nice and beautiful, and I think that kind of helped with my enjoyment of the movie.
And James, just to get your thoughts on that, but also, what did you think about the two Wolfman aspect of that? It was actually Blake's father who was the.
I mean, we all knew it was his dad, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we knew. He's like, he went hiding, and I was like, oh, like
There
the
was
plot of the original film.
There was a 30-second shot of his tattoo in the first 10 minutes of the movie. So
yeah, like, remember that tattoo for later, big guy. It was cool. It's kind of like he's fighting him. He's defending his family against his dad. And so, like Marco's saying, there's probably some hidden meaning in there that I didn't care about. But it was cool, like, showing the fighting thing. But it's not too over the top. They still are like pretty much wearing all makeup and stuff. It looks good, at least. But the ending, though, like, yeah, he basically is telling him to kill him at the end, right? Yeah. And I thought what bothered me in
like
that shot, yeah, we even know that he took a lot of inspiration from the Fly remake. He basically is saying it, you can tell, but you can't. And then I thought, though, that the daughter knowing that was kind of out of nowhere after all this stuff. She's like, he wants it to end. And I was like, just shut up. Like, fuck, man.
Yeah, and that was cheesy. It was supposed to be like, because she reads minds.
But she would have already. Cheesy. She would have never said that shit.
No,
how her character was leading up to it. I'm like, you seem like you're trying to save your dad the whole time, but now you're like, you know what? Yeah, let's kill him now.
It felt out of character. Yeah.
They're trying to add
whatever she had.
Whatever character. This little shard here, but yeah, super unbelievable. But I do like the last shot too, though, Marco. It's a nice look to it. So
and Mikey, just to get your thoughts too on how this film wrapped things up.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with these guys, and I know it's kind of rewriting the ending here, but this was the perfect time for them to go into wolf mode and have him say something emotional that they can't understand, but we can as an audience. Like, I think
actually that would have been great. Really cool, that would have actually been great, dude.
Yeah, and then the same stuff can happen.
Subtitles on the bottom.
He's like, why is he speaking Spanish? What the hell?
No, but I mean, yeah, it's just. I don't know. You go from like this guy digging under a door and chasing him super quick to having, quote unquote, as an emotional ending as you could have with the Wolfman, I guess. So it was fine. It didn't bother me, but I thought
did it bother you guys that he was transforming so drastically and these motherfuckers are still like, he seems fine, let's let him back in the house?
I think was my biggest thing was they they were showing us that the change was happening, and the family was just like, he's just sick though, let's just put him in the room while we try to call for help, kind of thing. And really, if you were seeing the changes that are happening, you'd probably be horrified of the guy.
Kind of. It's kind of like when the Bill takes his shirt off. We still love the guy. It's a little hairy. We're just like, just give him a hug. You'll be okay.
You don't know if it's full frontal because it's just a bunch of hair. Just covered.
Exactly. But it's what happens in any horror movie trope where like we the audience know what the fuck's going on, but they don't know, and it's like,
just so funny though, like he looks
that.
so bad. I was like,
yeah,
hey, maybe like don't let him in.
Right.
But the thing is,
they literally love him, It's like I would try to save you guys, but maybe if we saw Jimmy turn, he's got that strength, so we probably.
Mike is already there. We see the beard. We think it's a beard at least, but I don't know what's going on there.
Mikey looks reminiscent. We get him on the speed though. He wouldn't be able to get us on the speed. I'm like, God damn, he's really fucking slow.
He got the Jack Nicholson stuff.
He's got that heavy breathing too. He's just like hell. He's like a block down. I'm like, guys, I think we can walk. I think we're fine.
All right. Honestly, though, like just real quick here is like I kind of get why they let him in because he does like fight the other wolf guy, right? Like he's still helping them, even though he's like half wolf, I guess. So I kind of get what they were going to go with.
Yeah, they don't really know what's happening. They still haven't really figured out, at least the family, what's happening to him. So I'm sure it's kind of like, well, something's happening, but he's still there, obviously. So totally get that. But also, he looks terrifying at this point.
He looks scary as shit, dude. I'd be like, yo, are you guys sure? They're like, yeah, trust us. So that is the end of the podcast. It was a bit of a mixed bag this time around, but hey, they're not all winners, okay? That's all I'm going to say. All right? That's some opinion, see?
Everyone is perfect.
Yeah, so, hey, most of the time we get it pretty well, but hey, we don't know. This is how you know. We don't plan these ahead. Sometimes we can pivot, sometimes we can't. So sometimes this is what happens. So we appreciate y'all for listening in. Marco, let them know how they can reach us.
You can listen and follow us on your preferred podcast platform. We are everywhere. For a convenient link to all our social media platforms, visit linktree/moviepalspod. That's linktr.ee/moviepalspod. And remember, smash that subscribe button and you'll never miss an episode in this generation or the next.
Plus, for the next 90 days at least, catch us on TikTok for a sneak peek of the upcoming episodes and more exciting movie content. Catch us at Movie Pals Pod.
And make sure to tune in for our next episode, podcast episode number 192, where we will be reviewing Captain America, Brave New World, as well as continuing our Star Trek series, Star Trek First Contact.
Thank you, Nabil. Until next time, this is James,
Marco,
Nabil,
and Mikey.
Have a great one.